What if your blood pressure problem isn't just too much salt, but too little potassium every day? Many people fear sodium, yet miss the mineral that helps the body push back: potassium. Potassium helps your body release excess sodium and makes blood vessels less tense under pressure. You can look healthy, eat carefully, and still miss the potassium your circulation depends on. Here's the twist. The potassium food most people trust first isn't even the strongest option. Beans deliver potassium with fiber and magnesium, a powerful combination for calmer blood vessel function.
Leafy greens bring potassium in your arteries recognize, while supporting the mineral balance pressure needs.
A simple potato can carry more potassium than people expect, especially when real food replaces convenience.
The real advantage appears when potassium-rich foods show up consistently, not occasionally, across ordinary days. And the biggest shock: tomorrow's blood pressure may be shaped more by tonight's plate than panic. When you track food with blood pressure, potassium stops being theory and becomes visible daily feedback. Potassium works best as a pattern because blood pressure responds to repeated choices, not isolated moments. This is where food becomes strategy. Potassium joins fiber and magnesium to support vascular control. Potassium supports pressure control, partly by helping blood vessels stay less stiff and less reactive. The real question is not food versus medicine, but why missing potassium weakens every other effort. Potassium-rich meals do not need to be exotic. They need to be repeatable in real life. Lower pressure eating often starts at the store, where potassium choices quietly shape the entire week. Preparation matters because potassium helps most when convenience stops pushing you towards salty defaults.
Many people blame one bad reading, while the real cause may be repeated low potassium habits. Your next blood pressure reading may begin long before the cuff, starting with your next meal.
Yogurt can be a smart option too, especially when it replaces sugary breakfasts that quietly worsen pressure patterns.
Leafy greens help from multiple angles, bringing potassium and compounds that support healthier blood flow and vessel function.
What lowers pressure is rarely one miracle food. It is the pattern created when better foods repeat. Avocado supports the bigger picture too, because pressure responds best when meals improve quality, not just quantity. This is the insight most people miss. Food can support the system that creates the number in the first place. The goal is not one heroic meal, but repeated potassium-rich choices across the entire day. Combinations matter, because potassium-rich foods work best inside a pattern that is less processed and more consistent. Potassium helps most when it arrives with real food, not when the rest of the plate still works against you. When you track your meals and numbers together, potassium stops being theory and becomes visible feedback. And now the bigger question appears: which potassium-rich foods give the strongest blood pressure advantage first? White beans are one of the quiet champions here, delivering potassium in a form that also supports fullness and steadier eating.
Black beans work the same way, helping build meals that support blood pressure without depending on packaged convenience.
Once you compare foods side by side, you realize the strongest support often comes from meals, not snack-size symbolism.
Sweet potatoes bring more than comfort, because they can fit into satisfying meals that still support healthier pressure patterns.
The same craving can either feed higher pressure or quietly support lower strain, depending on how you build the plate.
Leafy greens matter because they combine potassium with compounds that may support blood flow and vessel flexibility.
Better circulation is not a feeling you always notice, but your blood vessels can respond long before symptoms do.
The smartest food changes often begin in the cart, long before they ever influence the blood pressure monitor.
What helps most is distribution, because repeated potassium-rich choices across the day may support more stable pressure patterns. Sometimes the foods people call basic are exactly the ones the cardiovascular system has been waiting for. Breakfast matters, because the first meal can either reinforce processed habits or begin rebuilding a better pressure pattern.
The morning meal influences more than hunger, because it can shape the stress load your body carries all day.
Whole fruits can support the bigger picture too. especially when they replace highly processed snacks and sweetened drinks. Blood pressure-friendly eating becomes easier when meals feel satisfying, familiar, and realistic enough to repeat. The breakthrough comes when convenience stops meaning sodium-heavy shortcuts and starts meaning prepared whole food options instead. Preparation changes everything, because better blood pressure choices become easier when the decision is already made. Pressure-friendly eating is often about thoughtful swaps, not perfection, punishment, or completely changing who you are. Some fish can fit this strategy well, especially when they replace salty, ultra-processed meals that push pressure upward. Pressure-friendly eating is often about thoughtful swaps, not perfection, punishment, or completely changing who you are.
Consistent monitoring provides peace of mind. At 120/80, this confirms the benefits of her careful tracking and healthy habits.
Squash can be useful too, because pressure-supportive eating works best when variety keeps the pattern sustainable.
Edamame and other whole plant foods add another layer of support by making better meals easier to build.
The problem is rarely the salt shaker alone. It is the hidden sodium sitting inside everyday convenience foods. Awareness changes behavior fast, because once you see the sodium load clearly, many old habits stop looking harmless. Some meals look sophisticated but quietly burden the system, while simpler meals may support it far more effectively.
Potassium supports the body's balancing systems, especially where fluid and sodium handling influence overall vascular pressure.
A supportive pattern often includes simple basics too, because blood pressure responds to systems, not isolated ingredients. Progress becomes easier to trust when you see repeated choices lining up with repeated improvements over time.
Consistent monitoring provides peace of mind. At 120/80, this confirms the benefits of her careful tracking and healthy habits.
Medication may control the number, but food can still shape the environment where that number keeps returning. A plate like this matters because it combines several supportive elements instead of relying on one nutritional hero. Structure reduces confusion because the easier a meal pattern feels, the more likely it is to become normal. Better blood pressure support does not have to be complicated. It often begins with simple, repeatable meal decisions.
The transformation is rarely dramatic overnight, but the body can respond when the inputs finally begin changing.
Feeling fine can hide rising strain, which is why supportive foods matter before the body forces your attention. Morning routines matter because the first food choices often decide whether the day begins with support or stress. The best pressure-supportive foods are not only nutrient-rich, they are realistic enough to keep buying and using. Environment drives behavior, so a kitchen filled with supportive foods can quietly improve choices without constant willpower. Real change happens when supportive choices stop feeling temporary and start becoming part of your identity. Now we move from general support to precision, because some potassium-rich foods deserve priority over all the rest. If you want a first priority, start here. Potatoes quietly deliver far more potassium than most people expect.
Rinsing the beans is key. They provide essential nutrients like potassium and fiber, promoting steady support for a healthy body.
Yogurt rises on the list when it replaces processed breakfasts, because better pressure patterns begin with better morning inputs. Leafy greens matter because they do more than add potassium. They support the entire environment of healthier blood flow. Here is the key shift. Not all healthy foods pull equally hard when blood pressure support becomes the mission.
Avocado as a supportive food that strengthens meal quality, not just potassium totals.
Priority foods work even better in combinations, because your blood pressure responds to patterns, not isolated nutrition moments.
The best foods are not just powerful. They must also be affordable enough to keep showing up every week. By tracking my meals alongside my blood pressure, a clear pattern starts to emerge over the week. Now that the strongest foods are clear, the next challenge is using them in the right order each day. The first smart move is morning placement, because supportive foods work better when they arrive before stress and cravings take over. By lunchtime, the goal is reinforcement, because repeating potassium-rich foods helps keep the day from drifting back toward imbalance. This is the deeper strategy. Not just eating good foods, but placing them where they protect the day most effectively. Order matters too, because the easiest food to reach is often the one that ends up shaping your blood pressure. Here is the breakthrough most people miss. The same foods can work better when you stop eating randomly and start eating strategically. Dinner should support recovery, because the body still responds at night to the quality of what you feed it.
When the whole day changes, the pressure story changes too, because one meal never acts alone inside the body. This is where precision begins, because your numbers reveal whether your food pattern is truly helping or only sounding healthy.
The real change happens when supportive food stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like the obvious choice.
Now the story gets even more powerful, because the next level is not just choosing these foods, but combining them wisely.
This is where food becomes more effective, because smart combinations can support blood pressure better than isolated ingredients alone.
The real advantage appears when potassium-rich foods stop competing for attention and start working together inside one meal.
A perfect start to the day. This meal provides a powerful blend of potassium, protein, and fiber to support healthy blood pressure.
The strongest meals usually combine minerals, fiber, and real food structure, making the body work under less daily strain. Here is the hidden mistake. Scattered healthy foods cannot always do what one properly built meal can accomplish.
Simple meals can be powerful, because blood pressure support does not require luxury, only smarter nutritional structure.
A supportive meal changes the internal math, helping offset the imbalance that processed foods quietly keep creating.
The smartest combinations are also practical, because repeatable foods create the consistency that blood pressure actually responds to.
This is where insight becomes proof, because the better combinations begin showing up directly in your recorded patterns.
Now the story sharpens again, because some food combinations may support blood pressure more effectively than others.
One of the strongest starts is a potassium-rich breakfast, because the morning sets the pressure pattern for everything after it. The lunch combination matters too, because balance works best when potassium rises as sodium-heavy convenience foods fall away.
What lowers pressure is often repetition, and meal prep turns good combinations into a pattern the body can actually trust.
Inside the body, the goal is less resistance, because pressure drops more easily when vessels are not constantly pushed. Here is the real shift. Random healthy foods may help, but complete meals can change the pressure story faster. Evening meals should still support the system, because late-day choices can either extend balance or undo earlier progress. The best combinations are simple ones you can repeat, because consistency matters more than chasing perfect meals once in a while.
Planning works because pressure-friendly eating gets easier when tomorrow's meals are decided before cravings and stress arrive.
By meticulously logging meals and blood pressure, we start to see the bigger picture. Notice how the trend line smooths out with structured eating.
Now the deeper question appears. What changes blood pressure more, temporary control alone, or daily nutritional support underneath it? Medication may lower the reading, but food helps shape the internal conditions that keep pushing that reading upward.
One approach manages the number directly, while the other helps improve the environment where that number keeps getting created.
Support begins long before the meal, because the foods surrounding you quietly decide what your blood pressure faces next.
What changes pressure most is often not drama, but repeated meals that lower the burden your vessels face. Here is the trap. A better number can feel like safety, even when the daily pattern underneath has not changed.
Blood pressure is a signal from a system, and systems improve best when the inputs improve repeatedly.
The real advantage appears when supportive foods replace something harmful, not when they simply get added on top.
Tracking reveals the truth, because pressure patterns expose whether support is real or only imagined.
The deeper transformation begins when pressure support stops feeling medical only and starts feeling behavioral, nutritional, and daily. And now the next reveal matters most. Some foods help pressure, but others quietly erase that benefit every day. Potassium helps, but pressure often stays high because hidden sodium keeps pushing in the opposite direction every single day.
This is the hidden math of blood pressure. Support matters less when opposing forces still dominate the plate.
Once you read labels carefully, many foods stop looking harmless and start revealing why your pressure stays stubborn.
Restaurant meals can cancel good intentions fast, because flavor often comes loaded with sodium that you never even taste.
Here is the twist. Supportive foods cannot fully protect you if hidden sodium keeps undoing the benefit.
Bread surprises many people,
because sodium is often baked directly inside the foods they eat most casually. Sauces matter more than people think, because a healthy meal can still carry a pressure-raising load on top. A meal can look supportive on paper and still work against you once hidden sodium gets poured across it. Frozen convenience becomes a problem when it replaces real meals with sodium-heavy patterns the body keeps paying for. The breakthrough is not cooking endlessly. It is replacing processed convenience with prepared foods that truly support pressure. Correction begins with replacement, because blood pressure improves faster when supportive foods crowd harmful foods out. Progress usually comes from better swaps, not perfection, because your pressure reflects direction more than dramatic promises. Sometimes the biggest improvement comes not from what you add, but from what finally stops canceling the benefit.
Many people chase special fixes while ignoring the daily food system that may influence pressure far more consistently.
This is where trust returns, because repeated structure begins producing numbers that feel less random and less fragile.
Pressure improves more reliably when you stop treating it like one number and start respecting the whole system.
Consistency begins in the store, because the foods you bring home decide which version of you shows up later.
Transformation often looks ordinary, because the body changes through repeated calm choices, not dramatic moments alone.
The best pressure-supportive dinner is one you can repeat easily without feeling restricted, punished, or overwhelmed.
Morning routines matter, because blood pressure often reflects how quickly the body gets thrown into stress and strain.
The goal is not perfection overnight. It is steady directional change that your blood pressure begins confirming over time.
Preparation protects progress, because willpower weakens fastest when hunger and convenience start negotiating with each other.
When meals become calmer and cleaner, the body often follows with signals that feel more stable and more trustworthy.
Sometimes the biggest improvement comes not from what you add, but from what finally stops canceling the benefit.
This is why replacement works so well, because support becomes stronger when sabotage finally begins disappearing too.
Behavior changes faster when the plan gets visible, because clear choices reduce confusion before pressure ever rises.
Identity changes quietly when the foods you once debated start becoming the foods you simply buy without friction.
Confidence grows when repeated choices create repeated evidence, and blood pressure stops feeling like a random surprise.
Now the answer is clear. Lower pressure came from a pattern, not from one food, one pill, or one promise.
When the full pattern comes together, pressure support stops feeling mysterious and starts looking completely teachable. The real power of potassium appears when it joins a full-day structure and the body can depend on.
Lasting progress depends on setup, because the future meal is usually decided by what your kitchen already allows. This is the transformation people want, not perfection, but steadier signals that reflect a body under less daily strain.
Blood pressure follows repetition, and repetition follows environment, which means daily visibility may be your real turning point.
Measurement matters because feedback makes patterns visible, and visible patterns are what finally change behavior.
The biggest win is not one lower reading. It is becoming the kind of person who supports better readings daily. Real support is built in ordinary moments, because health changes when simple actions become automatic and repeatable.
What once felt confusing now looks simple. Support the system daily, and the number often begins following.
So the final lesson is simple. Blood pressure improves best when potassium-rich living becomes your pattern, not your experiment.